Can you retire just on Social Security? Yes! Easy! And I'm going to show with it, man. I cannot wait to do this one. This could be awesome! Awesome! If you're sitting there thinking, I don't have any money, how can I retire? I'm going to show you, my friends. This is simple. You're going to be just fine. I'm telling you right now. So don't forget to subscribe down below. Sorry about my voice. Like I said, I did a video earlier this morning. I went to an Atlanta Legends game with my two sons yesterday, and we like to yell while we're watching professional sports. So a little bit scratchy, but that's good. All right. So the premise here. You got $60,000 of income. That's what you're making. All right. So we got two different scenarios. We're going to say Jane's got $60,000 this one. And then we're going to say Jane and John have $30,000 each. All right. So there's two things happening here. Two scenarios. One is just Jane and she's working, John's staying at home. The other is Jane works and John works. They both make $60,000. They make $60,000 total. So their household income is $60,000. And they say, man, I don't have any savings because we got to raise the kids or blah, blah, blah. And they're like, I'll never be able to retire. And they're just despondent. They're walking around life like this. And they're like, oh, this is the worst. No. Don't think like that. And I'm going to show you exactly how. So, all right, let's start with just Jane. Actually, I probably should write that down. Let me get a pen here. Man, I'm making a big old mess of my markers. As you can see, I color code these to be very cute. That's Jane. And that's John. We'll say this is Jane as well. All right, so in this case, we're going to say Jane for the time being. All right? And I might split this up into two videos. I don't know where this is going to go. I wrote my numbers down, but we might split this up in two because this is, I'm telling you, this is freaking important right here. So if you're sitting there thinking you can never retire, get off don't be like that. Don't. You can. I'm telling you. All right. So here's Jane. She makes $60,000 a year. That's the household income, $60,000 a year. The reason I use that number is because it's the median household income today in the United States. Median means 50% of the people make more, 50% of the people make less. So that is smack dab in the middle. You don't want average, for the love of me. Do not use averages. Use medians, and you should be able to find medians exclusively. A couple things I do have a hard time finding with on expenses. I've had a hard time, for my book that I'm writing, find the median expenses. The BLS uses averages, and that I'm trying to find a little bit more detail for expenses. But when it comes to income, this is spot on. So $60,000 is the median household income in the U.S. And we're just going to say that's Jane. She makes $60,000, and John stays home to change the diapers, whatever. I don't know. Now, excuse me. We're going to say Jane has been making $60,000 for 35 years. So I'll even say she started off at 22 years old and was making a pittance, and then slowly she started building up until for the last 35 years, she's been making $60,000. This is adjusted for inflation. All right, this amount of money is critically important to understand. It has already been inflated using the Social Security inflator, the tool that they have. Now, people say, but Josh, she wasn't making the median income right out of the gate. No, well, let's just say she started working, we'll just say after college at 22, and now she's 67 years old. That's 45 years of labor, all right? All we take is the top 35. So basically from 22 to 32, while she won't make any money, or very much money, we're not even using those in this scenario. So basically from 32 to 67, that's 35 years of work that she has been paying into Social Security. And from there to today, she's made the median level of income throughout the United States at that point, which in this case is $60,000. So essentially it might be $58,000 in last year's numbers, it might be $22,000 in 1994 numbers, whatever. At the end of the day, she has made the median amount, which when you use a Social Security inflator, represents $60,000 each and every year. I hope that makes sense. All right. So we take that $60,000, and it's very, very simple to do this once we have already done the inflator. We simply, I'll tell you how we do this. It's easy. We take the $60,000, we times by 35. 60,000 times by 35. You really don't even need to do this, but I'm going to do it to show you anyway. Because 35 years of earnings record is what we're shooting for. So $60,000 is her median earnings that she's made. And again, you'd have to look at your own statements. Some years you might have 68, some years might have 52, whatever. But in this case, we're saying she made the equivalent of 60,000 each and every year. You got to understand how that works. So I'm telling you, you got to. But that's the median income in the U.S. today. And that's the way it's been roughly in that same spending power, $60,000, even though it was only $22,000 in 1994, it bought the same as $60,000 today. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, so we take $60,000 of the median income, of her income, and we times that by 35 because that's how many years she made equivalent of $60,000. And that gives us $2.1 million, all right, $2.1 million of indexed earnings. And again, indexed because we use a Social Security inflator to give us today's numbers. All right, again, not from 1992, 1994. It's we inflate them for today's numbers. So she has inflated earnings or indexed earnings, really what we call it. We call it $2.1 million. We divide that number by 420. And the reason we divide by 420 is because there's 420 months in a 35-year work experience. So we take 420, and what do we get? Look at that, $5,000. That is her AIME is $5,000. All right, you with me so far? So her AIME is $5,000. Now I've got lots of videos on this on how to figure this out, but $5,000 is AIME. We know for a fact in 2019 the bend points, the first 926. Anybody gets 90% of that for a Social Security benefit. All right, so remember, we got to figure out our AIME, or average index monthly earnings, in order to get our Social Security benefit, which is called a PIA. All right, so she has 833. So the first $926 of her AIME, she gets 90% of that as a benefit. So that's $833. All right. Now the next amount, her AIME is $5,000. The next amount up to $5,583, she gets 32% of. Now because she doesn't go beyond 5,583 in terms of her AIME, we simply take 5,000, subtract from 926, and that gives us, hold on just a second, 5,000. I'll just do it so you can show. Subtract from 926 because we already got paid for the first 926. And that gives us 4,074 as a second bend point. 4,070. Actually, I don't know why I got 1,574. What do we got here? This 4,000 right here. Sorry, 4,074 is the second bend point for her. This is for the other guy. All right, so that means 4,074 times 0.32, and that gives us this right here. All right, so 4,074. 5,000 minus 926 is 4,074. Take that 4,074 times by 0.32%, and her second bend point is 1,304. In this case, her entire Social Security benefit is $833 plus 1,304 is $2,137. And that's the amount she gets at her PIA, which is her primary insurance amount, which she gets at her full retirement age. It's 66 or 67, one of those 2 years. In this case, it doesn't matter. We'll go into a different video to work this even more. So in this case, she gets a PIA of $2,137, all right? That's the amount she gets at her full retirement age. We'll say 67. We'll say her full retirement age is 67, which means she was born in 1960. All right, so far, so good. Now, her spouse, John, because he did not work at his full retirement age, again, we'll say 67, gets half of Jane's PIA, which in this case is $1,068. All right, so in this case, Jane gets $2,137, John gets $1,068. They get a total of $3,205 in their Social Security at their PIA. 3,205 times 12, which is $38,460. Now we're not done yet. We're going to show you even better what we can do here in just a second, which is $38. We'll just say $39,000 of income. All right, so that's them. With me so far? I'm going to probably write that down. $38,000. Yeah, let's write that down. I think what I say, 38,400. I think it to be precise. Oops. It's 3,205 times 12. 38,460. 8460 is their total Social Security income. If they don't have any other income, that's tax-free. But we're not done. Now let's say both John and Jane both worked and they made $30,000 for the 35 years that we talk about. So again, in 1994, that might be $13,000. I mean, I literally don't have any clue off the top of my head, but just that gives us a household income of $60,000. Because remember, the median household income today is $60,000. And that's the way it's always been, essentially since the dawn of Social Security, is the median household income has been the equivalent of $60,000 in today's numbers. So they got $30,000 each. All right, now again, we simply, in this case, because we've already inflated everything, we simply say, what is 30,000 divided by 12? And that's 2,500. So their average index monthly earnings is 2,500. We did bypass the 30,000 times 35 divided by 420 because we've already kind of done that. If we've already indexed the earnings, we already know exactly what their AIME is going to be just by dividing that amount by 12. Okay, but you can do it. You can still take 30,000. Times that by 35, divide that by 420, and you're still going to get 2,500. All right, so they both have 2,500 as their AIME. First 926, they get 90%. Anything above 926, in this case, is 1,574, because 1,574 plus 926 equals 2,500. The first 926 is 800 is times by 0.9%. They get 90% of that, which is 833. The next amount for them is 1,574. We times that by 0.32, and they get 504. That makes sense? So 833 plus 504, they both get 1,337 in benefits here. All right, so 1,337 is what they both get. And so if we add these two together, their total benefit is $2,674. All right, so 2,674 times 12 is 32,088. So in this case, it's 32,088. So in this scenario, where we definitely like better having one income as opposed to two in terms of maximize your Social Security. So there we go. There's no spousal benefit. And the reason we're not doing a spousal benefit in either of these cases is because remember, the spousal benefit is half of the other person's PIA. So in this case, it'd be $650 or so. It's not, you're not going to get a spousal benefit because it's less than your own benefit. So in this case, having these two workers hurts their income for sure in terms of Social Security. But at the end of the day, that's only $60,000. So it gives us something to think about. So, all right, let's keep going. So now we're going to take a break. I'm going to show you, going back to these scenarios for both of them, what we can do to retire simply on without having any income at all. So stay with me. We'll see you here in just a second.